Who's this
Jimmy
Jimmy?
Lewis.
Who you talking about? Jimmy something? Jimmy Witherspoon?
Nobody knew who he was.
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy? Jimmy?
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy?
Jimmy
Jimmy?
Lewis.
Who's this Jimmy?
Lewis.
Who's this Jimmy?
Just kept on going.
Live from Pahrump, Nevada, the Valley of the Dirt People, it's Tech Talk, Taco Tuesday, with your hosts, Jimmy Lewis and Logan Tyler.
Welcome. This is the Jimbo program. This is the tequila taste testing Tuesday tacos and what? Oh yeah, Tech Talk Taco Tuesday number 251. In case you weren't paying attention or missed the previous. No, it's actually 252. Yeah, in case you missed the previous 251 episodes. I'm going to check the sheets right now. 252 it is. Welcome, everybody. Got a banger of a show tonight, as usual. If you want to talk two-strokes tonight, this is the important thing. You know what the important thing is? I forgot to open up the chat, and I have a little feedback going on my board, which is really bothering me. I think I just took it away. Sounds good. Better. It's really easy to get guests on the show, but to have a co-host is pretty difficult. So I do have the chat going now. It's working, luckily. But tonight we have someone that can answer your two-stroke questions. We have Steve Boardman he's from South Bay Moto, which is the exclusive importer of two-stroke performance products. He is going to come on the show in a little bit and help you answer any questions you have about two-strokes. I have some two-stroke tuning questions. He knows how to do it. He says he talks to a lot of people every day about this, so he can probably help you out with your questions. In my world, I want to control the power valve on the new bikes, on the new, especially the KTMs. Because I played around with some settings, so we'll get a little bit deeper into that. Of course, we have an exciting segment of Rooster Endo, brought to you by Taco Moto. And, of course, this whole show is brought to you by Yamaha, which you do not need to tune a Yamaha two-stroke because they come absolutely perfect right from the box with a carburetor. They're jetted. Just you never have to go inside of a carburetor because I don't like carburetors, so I like bikes that come jetted perfectly. Even the new YZ125 got some jetting updates because they wanted to make it more perfect than it already was. So if you're looking for a two-stroke, don't listen to anything we say about any of these other ones that have all these tuning capabilities. Go down to your Yamaha dealer and get a two-stroke. And if you want me to talk about real tuning, don't make me open up my Yamaha Power Tuner app because I can show you some maps, especially for the 250. So, boy, my Google meeting is asking me to do stuff I don't want it to do. That's scary, but they know everything. So welcome to the show. Want to know where everybody's checking in from? Because we're not going up against, there's no presidential debates tonight that I know of. There's definitely new tariffs. That's today, every day. But I don't even think there's anything else going on. And Chris B says, good afternoon. Can't wait to refresh the top end of my 300 with South Bay parts. Okay. Afternoon, Chris. Where you must be from Australia or something like that. Because it is not afternoon here. It's evening. And cheers. Top of the evening to you there, buddy. So, again, if you have any questions, I'm just getting my, why can't I see the restream? Oh, I know why. It got moved around. There we go. Making sure you can see your chat up in the screens, fixing all of my stuff. Yeah, let us know where you're checking in from. My tract house in beautiful North Las Vegas, says Jesse. You'd better be inside your house in North Las Vegas because it is hot. It was like 106 out here in Pahrump. And at least it cools down when the sun goes down. So, Jesse, enjoy that air conditioning. We use swamp coolers out here. I'm getting away with it. We may have a Trevor Hunter call-in where he's going to defend his dual sport racing results. And I was going to have Jerry Counts on. Jerry Counts got brought up on last week's show. I know Jerry quite well. Long history of talking to Jerry, and he was ready to come on, but he wants to wait till next week. So hopefully I won't do anything stupid on this show to scare Jerry off. But we'll have I would say one of the pioneers of dual sport riding and dual sport events, and he has a really interesting story that he can tell about why because he was putting on enduros, and he was big in the timekeeping enduro scene. And when the land use regulations kind of came in, he figured out a way to be able to go ride in the good places still, even when, like I said, times were changing. So I got that screen closed away. Valley Center, says Crispy. That's hot as hell down there. that may be yeah. In Valley Center, dude, you should start working like before the sun comes up and stop about 1. So, and 72 inside in Vegas, and his electric bill is still low with the newfangled air conditioner. It's good to know. So, again, load up your 2-stroke tuning questions. We'll get to those. And tonight, just I don't know where Mark's at. I don't see Mark chiming in, but in the continuing tradition of plowing through my stocks of tequila, tonight's we're gonna kill the 3 R's. This is we're at the bottom of the barrel there. You can't see with my fat fingers in the way. I was gonna save this for my tequila podcast, but I guess we're gonna have to wait for that. So the 3 R's. If you're curious about this is the one we're gonna try to finish that sucker off today. But that's part of our show. So Torrance and Victor. Oh, you know what, Victor? I got something for Victor. Victor's checking in from Torrance. He's hiding from Imigra down there. He doesn't need to, but he just does because he likes to. And that's what we have. So, and Chris takes a 2-hour lunch break and a nap, and it was only 92 today. What the hell? You're lying, because there's no way it's that cool down there. If it was 92, I'd go riding at Glamis. That's how much I would do. So everybody, welcome to the show. Wouldn't be possible with the help of some of our other sponsors. Of course, there's Moto bringing you Rooster Endo, Fasst Company Flex handlebars, bulletproof designs, DDC chain wheels. Been around with us since the beginning. And all these companies are getting invoices in the very near future. I swear I'm going to do it this week or the next week, and then I forget it. Don't forget the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame in Vegas. Same time as the Mecum auctions. Follow Hot Shoe Hall of Fame on the Facebooks or the Instagrams. They have announced their dates for next year, and I think that if you are want to go to the Mecum auction, the best way is to go to the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame, get your tickets. It's free, and then they can get you get a little pass to be able to go into the Mecum auction. So a great time in Vegas at the beginning of the year. I'll be there to defend my go-kart championship. Hold on. I don't like to talk about myself that much in this podcast, but here it is right here. The champion of champions. I dare you to try to take that away from me. Yeah, come on down. Actually, I think you have to be an inductee to race. That's why I don't know. But you can probably be that too. If I got in there, anybody can get in there. So, okay, everybody, I'm going to bring in Steve Boardman from South Bay Performance. I tried to rekindle a discussion I had with him, but he says he talks to too many people. And let me see if I can make this work here. And we'll see if Steve comes on. I see him here, so I'm going to bring him into the show like this. Hold on, I lost my place.
Cheers. Thank you for having me. For sure. Yeah, Trevor's a good dude. He actually rode a 150 that we built that was carbureted a few years back for RPM Racing, and loved it. Did a little test on it. We bought it back from him. My son raced it for a year. And then he called me up recently and said, "Hey, I got a brand new 25 gas 300 EX that there's some things I'd like to fix on it." So we hooked him up with some two-stroke performance goodies, and so far so good. He's been loving the bike. His quote was, "There's some small things that he wanted to fix, which we did, and there was a whole bunch of things he didn't even know he wanted to fix, but it was much better and exceeded his expectations." So that was good to hear.
So you were able to. So, well, this is what I've learned with Trevor is he doesn't know what he doesn't know, and I kind of forget. I kind of forget that he hasn't been doing this for 30 years. Sometimes I'm like, how come why are you doing this? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, because you've never kind of experienced this before. But he's getting good at feeling stuff, understanding how the bikes, maybe not, he didn't get too deep into how the bikes work, but he can feel it when he's riding, which is the sign of the good test rider.
Absolutely, for sure.
So I think they said my audios were screwed up on the one, so I'm going to go back to this. Okay. This is how the show goes. It's all technical stuff. So hopefully it's working now. Usually have some kid that sits over here and just smart ass to me the whole time because I can't figure out how to even use my phone. So there we go. I remember when the 4-strokes went fuel injected, and all of a sudden it just opened up this whole new level of tuning. There's always been ECUs, and that where you're able to kind of adjust. And when the you could always play around with the ignition maps, ignition curves, and things like that. And all of a sudden, before, in order to quote get it right, you'd have to jet it, and that involved not just main jets and pilot jets. It involved needles, pump squirt durations, just a ridiculous amount of analog stuff, also combined with the digital stuff. And it was really too much for most people to even fathom. Come along to the fuel injection age, and now, there was tools available where you could do both kind of digitally, and even to the point where they were running stuff on dynos, and that you could optimize the fuel tuning on the dyno, and then they had stuff that was piggybacking on your stock ECU that would optimize the fuel tuning. So there were piggyback tuners and stuff like that would actually read the exhaust gases and stuff. Is this where we're at with the 2-strokes now?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like because I've been racing for almost 40 years. I've kind of always been the local tuner up here in Northern California for District 36 and some of the clubs that I've been in. And give me a key in, and and a good rider with some good feedback, and we'll throw some jets and needles in that thing and get it running good. And today it's a lot more complicated than that with these ECUs. And 2-stroke performance, when I first met them, I bought one of the first 2018 KTM 2-stroke fuel injected bikes, and I let my kids ride it, who are both fast racers, and they're like, "Yeah, that's your bike, Dad." It just doesn't go good enough for them. And
well,
so
there's in KTM's defense, there's more of you than there are of them. And then the other thing is, who's paying for that bike?
Right, exactly. So I began my quest of like, okay, how do I make this bike run, race ready, right? And there were some other options out there by replacing the ECU. I messed with that for a couple of years, but couldn't quite get it the way I wanted it. There's a piggyback system that wasn't quite working for us. Then I just stumbled across an Instagram ad from 2-Stroke Performance, and I liked what he had to say. I called Dave out in Australia, and I liked his philosophy on tuning. You know, he built a Yamaha YZ250 fuel injected bike 15 years ago from scratch. So he knows how to do this stuff, and we tried it and we liked it. And pretty soon I was referring a bunch of people, but we were having to ship ECUs all the way out to Australia, which was a pain and turnaround and cost prohibitive. And he's like, hey, I need somebody out in the US to kind of run the show. So we really liked the product. We were passionate about it. And so it was kind of just pre-COVID time. We became the distributor here in the US for Two Stroke Performance. And, you know, all the way from the TPIs to now the TBIs, and we now do 4-strokes, 350s, and 500s. You know, they have tunes for, and, you know, the latest device is an ERM device that they make that comes with the standard TSP tune, which is really good. Your average rider probably doesn't need to tweak it. But guys like us like to dial bikes in for, you know, certain preferences or ways we like the power delivery. So this ERM device allows you to flash your ECU yourself. It has some overlay tunes for richer, leaner, softer. It allows you to adjust fuel, ignition, power valve to your own rider preference and save those as custom tunes. And it's half the cost of like an aftermarket ECU. And I've always liked the fact running the stock ECU. You know, there's a lot of development and stuff that goes into that. And I never really liked replacing those. So yeah, we're into the digital age of tuning two strokes for sure.
Yeah, and so most of your tunes are people send you the ECUs, you tune them and send them back, or is it people that are buying the CRM? Or because with that you buy the tool and then you also buy a license for each ECU that you're going to tune, correct?
Not quite. So there are two options. You could send me the ECU, we flash it, send it back, and that's comes with two maps, map 1 and map 2 for the TPIs, or green and white for the TBIs. And that's a set it and forget it, which works for a lot of people. And that's a less expensive route. The ERM device.
That's what most people really. I mean, what I've learned is that people just want to know. Tell me the best, and I want that. I'm from the testing realm, so it's like when they say, "Well, send me your suspension settings," and I'm like, "Well, who are you?" And like, you know, what do you need? And I mean, just like a suspension tuner, they don't just take your suspension and put something in it. They ask you about your weight, height, riding, and I mean, how much that really reveals is totally different because, you know. But anyway, so that's the kind of just the plug and play. You have some pretty good, and it's almost like a manufacturer that, you know, when they sell that bike, they believe that it's the best bike for the widest amount of people, which is like, how are you going to hit that target?
Yes, but also they have to appease any regulations they have, as well as their corporate attorneys. So
yes.
those are some parameters that tend to kind of detune and overfuel some of these bikes. So yes, sending us the ECU is the cheapest route. It's a plug and play. But what we find on the newer bikes, the TBIs, you know, they're a little bit more complicated. They're more sensitive to the TPS voltage being set correctly, and a lot of dealers aren't setting up correctly. They tend to throw a few more error codes. You can reset the power valve, you know, electronically. And so the ERM device is not only, it flashes your ECU, it not only is a tuner, but it's an amazing diagnostic tool that allows you to set the TPS voltage correctly, reset the power valves, read and clear fault codes, check ignition, check fuel pump, check injectors, check spark. Like, it's all the things that your average guy would have to take to the dealer, they can now do with this ERM device. So for TBIs, the ERM is the most popular setup. But for the TPIs, if you just set it and forget it and don't want to tinker, sending us the ECU, we flash it, and it's good to go.
Okay, so the ERM device that works just with one ECU, or it'll work with anyone it's connected to?
No, so for tuning and flashing, when you pair it to a bike, it locks to that ECU via the VIN number, and it can only be used to tune and that specific ECU that it's locked to. However, it can be used as a diagnostic tool on any other same generation, in this case, TBI bike. So if you have an ERM that's locked to your bike, your buddies can use it as a diagnostic tool on their bike, but it can't be used to tune or flash their bikes. Now, what it is designed to do, let's say next year you get a new bike, you can pay TSP a fee. They will reset the ERM, and then you could register it to a new bike down the road.
Okay, that's kind of, because that's the thing, is you couldn't send out this tool to just anybody if it can plug into everybody's bike and then start flashing and doing all that stuff. And I knew that was like the one thing that was, when this stuff started evolving, is on the 4-strokes and stuff, is everybody wanted to send you the locked ECU, their own ECU and the tools to work with it. But that kind of that connectivity, the licensing of the software to work with the thing was always, kind of what they were leery of, because they thought people would, steal the intellectual property in that.
Yeah, we don't want to sell one ECU or ERM and have the whole world share it, right? That's not a very good business model.
No. And I mean, there's work that goes into that. I mean, it's just the upfront cost in developing the software and then being able to write to the ECUs and especially when it comes on to the emissions compliance stuff and, going around, figuring out how to, unlock that and then make it a quote competition bike. There's a lot of stuff there, both legal and, like you said, just protecting the intellectual property there.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into just exactly what you said, building an ERM and then being able to read and write to the ECUs, as well as you access all the ports for diagnostics. And then what I was most impressed as a tuner perspective were the actual maps that TSP puts out there. They're really, really good. And they do a lot of testing. So when they get a new bike, they'll develop a head and a tune, and they send it around to all over the world we get them to their test facilities. We go out and try to break it and just run different fuels through them and then give feedback. And they just, we'll work on them for 6 to 8 months sometimes. And people are like, well, the bikes are out. Why don't you guys have the tunes? And TSP they won't release them until they're spot on perfect for a wide range of applications all across the world. And I really appreciate that about them, that when they come to market with a product, it's been well tested and it works.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, people ask us all the time, like, how come the bikes come this way stock or what? And it's like, well, they do a lot of stuff. I mean, there's times when they're developing new bikes where, they need to run that on different, countries' gas. The gas in Australia is different than the gas here in the U.S. It's different than the gas in Europe, and the bike can't blow up. And number one, and I've tested some stuff that was really good, and it goes back, and then it doesn't work in the other countries, or it doesn't that spec doesn't kind of work. So sometimes there's individual country specs, and then there's regulations, whether it's sound and or emissions, and there's different stuff. And that a lot of times these bikes are what do they come with? What do they come with? Like double walled pipes someplace and a big old intake restrictor in other parts of the world?
Yeah, in the UK, the EXCs come with a snorkel, which literally brings the intake down to something about that big. And then it's got a pipe that looks more like a trials pipe than an actual 2-stroke pipe. And most of the dealers just take those off and fit them properly, but that's how they're required to ship them to the dealers. Yeah.
And then they sell it as a race bike when, they want to be able to, people want to license them. And, I don't care too much about the whole, the world ride regulations. I mean, I lived in California for a while, and we saw that, what quote green sticker bikes did to, did that whole thing. And I haven't even been able to keep up with, what's going on. I know the green sticker, or there is a sticker that's back, luckily.
Yep.
But like Yamaha will not sell a WR in California, which is crazy, and just because of the it has a headlight and a taillight and a sound requirement and all this stuff. But the emissions requirement has to require some sort of evaporative system that's like, they're like, no, we can't legally, meet these requirements, so we can't sell the bike here. It's kind of nuts. So do they typically put a different cylinder head on it? That's kind of one of their things?
It really is. And with you could just run a tune. The stock KTM heads are just okay. KTM has brought the compression way down on the heads, and like on some of the bikes, they increased the fuel burn rate. And so is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. But we tune to our heads, the TSP heads. They're not crazy with compression. We try to run everything on 91 pump gas unless you're trying to build something special. But what they do is they like to tighten up the squish. They like to slow down the fuel burn rate. And the TSP heads, unlike most other head manufacturers, they try to build a really smooth linear power delivery. So it really is geared more towards an off-road rider, racer, hare scrambles, sprint enduros. And like a huge market for us is the hard enduro series, because they're very torquey, but the power delivery is very smooth and linear, almost electric. We call them 3-strokes. And so to get that really smooth linear power delivery and that extra torque, that's all in the head. So I always say the tune gets you kind of 50% of the way there. The head gets you 50% of the way there. And the package is really what's ideal. But, for those that are on a budget or just, want to try one thing at a time, the tune would be the first thing to do.
Yeah, it's like, I remember even back in the old days, you'd get there was like DG, and they had stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. They had these different things kind of depending on what you wanted to do. And usually, when you went from stage 2 to stage 3, it required running race gas or something crazy, like that was like, I don't know if I need that or I want to get into that level. But so you said you talked to a lot of these riders. Are they requesting like custom tunes, or you just kind of coach them into the right direction?
Yeah, we don't do custom tunes. I have some pro riders that we set up, and I'll go out and help create a TSP tune that's customized to them, because a lot of pro riders, especially in motocross, are really, really fast guys that hold it wide all day long. They tend to need more fuel, and they tend to run a different type of fuel that tends to lean out a standard tune. So we'll go out and kind of help those guys out. But for the most part, it's a basic tune for everybody. We do have different heads. We have depending on the bikes, a low, medium, high, very high compression head, usually geared towards elevation, right? Because you lose 3% compression every 1,000 feet of elevation gain. And when somebody calls me, I just ask them, hey, tell me about where you ride, what elevation range, what type of trails do you like, what type of power delivery? Do you like to be in the power band all the time, or do you like to shift up a gear high and kind of lug the motor? And then, I just kind of steer them into whatever package that I think is going to best meet their needs. And, so far, so good. We have a lot of really happy customers.
Yeah, I know Trevor's been happy with the 300 that he's been playing around with. I don't know if he's got he probably hasn't done his work and put his test up on Dirt Bike Test yet, but typical. I will complain. I mean, he was riding up in Colorado last week, so I'll give him a little bit of a break there. But for me, I and just from previous testing and stuff, and knowing how critical the power valve. I mean, before you always had to port your cylinders. It was always just porting, and that always went along with certain squish bands, adjusting the squish and stuff. And is there something? Do they just have a slightly different? Are they working with the squish too much, or is it more so just compression? Or
it's a combination of compression and squish. So as a mass producer manufacturer, TSP wants to make it very simple, right? So we set our squish. It's quite a bit tighter than stock, but we set it to the stock base gasket height, right? We don't want people having to pull their cylinders off and run thinner base gaskets to get a proper squish. So most of our stuff is designed. I mean, we do have some exceptions in the 85.
What is the stock base gasket height in a KTM?
.60 millimeters, and that's been the same since 2017.
Right. And so that's typically 2 base gaskets, correct? The 5.0 and the
Very
10,
good.
yeah.
No, it's a 4.2. It's actually a .4 and a .2. And
Okay.
I honestly, as an engine builder, like I never liked stacking base gaskets. But that's the way KTM did it. That's how the rebuild kits did it. And so that's what we did. And then TSP, they developed their own top end rebuild kit, and they came out with a .6.
Okay,
And
perfect. Yeah, make it easy.
Make it easy, right? We sell a ton of those, and so no more stacking base gaskets. But .6, whether you run a low compression or a high compression head, it's always the same base gasket height. We work around the squish and the compression. We leave the port timing alone.
Yeah. So I mean, I know the last time I rebuilt my 300, I put just the .42 in there to bump the compression up because I wanted to kind of see what it would do for me. Yep. And I'm probably going to throw the thin one back in the next time I pull it back, because it was like it did some stuff better, but not to. It didn't. I mean, mine's an older one, but I really do like the mellow character of the bike. Where I think most riders, especially in the U.S., want more hit and more aggression out of their 300 two-stroke. Am I correct?
Depending on the bike. And now with KTM on these new TBIs, if you rode a brand new XCW, which is the same as a TE or an EC, depending on the brand, right. They have a lower port timing, they have a super low compression, and they're overfueled, and they're very underwhelming. They're dogs. Yeah. And so
they're old dude trail riding bikes.
They are, and they foul plugs and they spooge everywhere. So we need to spice those up. Now on the other end of the spectrum, the XC and the SX, those are running higher port timing, they're running higher compression, they have a spicier tune, and to me it feels like an old school open class motocross bike. But for off-road, it's very light switchy. It's on or off, and it doesn't carry a gear high or down low. And so we have to kind of detune those a little bit and create more torque and get that hit out of it, Now, some people, motocross guys like that big hit. So it really depends on the model, on kind of how we focus, the tune and the head to create. The number one priority is rideability. We want to make the bike easier to ride in a variety of conditions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't ridden an XC for the last couple of years. I rode the early XC SX thing, and that's the one I really got to play around with the power valve timing, and there was it's amazing what you can do with the power valve. I mean, and it's like you've got your kind of base power delivery. It's like, I like this, but I want to deaden it a little bit here, and I want it to pick up a little bit here, and I found that I could modulate the power valve, and not to the point where, like with the springs and the spring preload, it was very linear what you could do with it. Mm-hmm. You could get it to open up a little bit early and then close back down a little bit, and then open later and especially with the two strokes, the power valve is also increasing compression to a certain extent. So you could do some things with that, but you can also just like any tune, you can blow the bike up. So it's a tricky game. Is that something you're able to do with your ERM?
ERM, yeah. We do change the power valve in our stock tunes that we send out. And then with the ERM, there's 3 components that you can modify through the tuning, and that's fuel's one, ignition is one, and power valve is the other. So you can change what the power valve is doing in varying throttle position and RPM ranges, and you can tell it to do exactly what it is that you want it to do.
So what I just described, if you saw the map and on that map, what is it showing you? It's not just open or closed. It's giving you a percentage of opening.
Correct. So we use we have different tunings. The basic is the free tune that comes with it, and it's a 4-square, and it's based off of the top left is closed throttle, 0 RPMs, And then it goes to quarter throttle, 3/4 throttle as the RPMs go up with it. So you can put in minus numbers, meaning it's going to open sooner, or you can put in plus numbers, meaning it's going to open later at any one of those 4 stages. And in my opinion, the basic tuning with the 4 square, it's plenty for 99% of the people out there. There's a feature that you can purchase that's called the Pro mode that gives you like 40 squares, and you could really break it down by RPM, much more smaller increments.
Yeah, that sounds what I'd like to play with. I mean, because that's all I want to play with as I was, on the last one I rode, the 24, I was really happy with the bike. It was like, oh, I know exactly what it's doing. If I could just, I wanted the power valve to, and I don't remember specifically what it was. I think I wanted it to kind of open up a little bit, so it kind of was dead a little bit longer, but then pick up, because it was a little bit too, pipey a little bit too early. And if you just keep the, the opening the power valve really deadens the power a lot of times. Mm-hmm. It makes it flat. And then, like I said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think I wanted to kind of deaden it down for a little bit, because I want it, when I want it to come on, I really want it to come on, but it came on too early, and then I'd have to turn my wrist the wrong way. So I want to keep turning my wrist one direction.
The way I like to describe it is, as the power valves close, the bike's making torque, and torque is that, flipping the throttle, getting up and over obstacles, or carrying a gear higher, and torque is a smooth power delivery. When the power valves open, it's creating horsepower, right? And horsepower is more like in your face, hard pull, like, kind of a little less controlled. It's just like, Here we go. Now we're what we call on the pipe, and we got somewhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that on and off, like the on and off, you're coming up to something, and you come off the throttle, and then you come right back on, and the bike is so smooth that it doesn't come right back on. It just goes, and that's when most high levels riders will compensate with the clutch. They'll artificially create that snap with the clutch, but I wanted it back in the throttle. I wanted to be able to just come off the throttle and let me go. So there was places where, like I said, it was too much throttle, and there's places where it was too little, and I'm like, I felt like I know how to fix this, so I'll have to see about getting. I need to get that bike from Trevor, and I need to get that upgraded tuning level and play. Does he just have a plug and play one, or does he have the ERM?
He has the ERM. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, he probably just he probably hasn't pushed the buttons yet.
But he actually called me when he went to Colorado, and I gave him some things to try, because he was going to be riding high elevation to take a little bit of fuel out of it. And then, he said he's going to ride some technical stuff. So we were going to take a little fuel out, take a little ignition out, just to tame the bike down a little bit for more technical riding situations. And so it sounded like everything went really well. But that's the nice thing about the ERM. Like, I've tried to use other ECUs, tunable ECUs in the past, and I find them interesting because I could make a change I knew exactly, like you, I knew exactly what I wanted to change, and I would make a change, and sometimes I couldn't feel that it even made a change. I had to make these huge changes. And then when it did change, it would change like one thing, but then it would also change something else I didn't even expect or want it to. And the one thing I could say about the ERM is, like, I could do a 1% change on fuel, or even ignition, or even power valve, and I can feel it, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Like, and no other surprises. Like, it really is kind of spot on how they programmed it and how well it works.
Yeah, interesting. Like I said, I've played with a couple different, like I said, I've had ECUs flashed, and then had the opportunity to try different stuff. On the 4-stroke side, I'm at this point where I know, because you're basically it's just ignition and fuel, and then some of them have some certain traction controls, which 99% of the time I just turn it off right away, because I'm not a fan of. My wrist is programmed to, if I want my tire to spin, I know what to do with my wrist, and if I don't want it to spin, I know what to do with my wrist. And I get in fights with some of the electronic interferences. Same with like ABS, like anti-lock braking on the adventure bike side. I fight with it quite a bit to the point where I just disable it because
Right.
you forget. The problem is you forget to turn it on or turn it off, and then it comes on, and then you have a big problem. So, anyways, if anybody has any questions, this is Steve. I'm so bad with names.
Boardman.
Boardman. I wrote it down and I'm seeing South Bay Performance. And it's funny. I also got confused because they have South Bay Triumph down in the Los Angeles area. And when I saw South Bay Performance, I was like thinking, are those the same guys that were doing? Because they used to prep a lot of media bikes for the magazines. Some of the off brands, the Triumphs and the like Moto Guzzi's and different things we would pick up down there. So, and are you guys exclusively dirt bike shop?
We're exclusively dirt bikes, and exclusively our niche is just motors. I mean, we do sell a few other little things, but we just found a niche in just motors. Primarily it was 2-strokes, but now we're doing the 4-strokes. We have the ERMs for the 350s and 500 4-strokes. And we're out of San Jose, California. So San Jose is also known as South Bay. I know there's a South Bay down in Southern California as well. And interesting, you'd mentioned on the 4-strokes, 2 features that I really like on the 4-stroke ERM tuning is there's a throttle response that we can adjust from 1 to 5. So more aggressive, less aggressive. So that almost, to me, feels like a power valve change on the 4-stroke. It's pretty cool.
Right.
And then my favorite feature on the 4-stroke ERMs is engine braking. We can keep stock engine braking, or we can almost remove it entirely. And some people kind of like it somewhere in the middle in between, depending on, are you trail riding? Are you track riding? And those are 2 things that I know some people, some of the other tuners do that to their ECUs, but to be able to actually adjust it with the ERM for rider preference is super cool.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like the cool thing about having like something like an ERM is the ability to play with it, so you know what you like. You can, like I say, take away engine braking, add engine braking, or fiddle with the power valve. What does it feel like to have and there is so many, like I say, so many different options to play around with, and unless you test them, you would never know. Again, some people just to me the best thing, whatever that is, and then there's the people that like to tinker with this stuff. And I mean, for me, growing up, going to 4-strokes from 2-strokes to 4-strokes, I learned my idle screw was my engine braking adjust. That's how you manipulate it with the they're just, and whether it's they're not letting the butterfly. Well, no, because you guys are it's all still cables. I'm in a world where we're dealing with electronic throttle devices and stuff, so they don't completely shut the butterfly valve and stuff like that. And how are they doing the throttle response? That's with kind of what we would call like pump squirt or fuel.
It's done through fueling. You can control the pulse and the pulse duration of the injectors. And it's also done through ignition. And there's amazing things that you can do with ignitions on 4-strokes.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, before, like I said, it was just an idle screw, but the high level is you would advance or retard the ignition at the same time you're doing stuff on the fuel to kind of give you that artificial extra compression braking and whatnot. And now, it's, one of the, so Are You Unruly asks, where do you like to have your start fueling set with the ERM?
Great question. So that is a nice feature of the ERM. What I find is if you've got a bike that is typical, I just leave it alone. I don't have any issues with cold starts or warming up the majority of the time. They don't foul plugs. The stock tunes are overly rich. We lean them out. You could just start them up.
We're gonna say you live in California at sea level.
Yep. Yep.
No, that was what we got it all the time at the magazines. Oh, you just ride at Glen Helen. It's like, no, we've ridden the bikes at other places too.
Right.
We understand jetting.
Yeah.
I have still yet, me personally, have still yet to foul a 2-stroke spark plug in the last 25 years. I don't know what these people are doing.
Right. But to getting back to that question, you know, if you do have a bike that, you know, you've checked your TPS voltage is set correctly, you've reset the power valve, you know, your rings are good, your compression is good, you're not sucking tranny fluid through the motor, everything's checked out, and it just seems to be overly rich during startup, then yeah, I would just start taking some fuel out of the startup feature. I always go in increments of 2 or 4. I always like to start big and then slowly start making smaller and smaller increments. And I just ask myself better or worse, until I get down to a point where it seems fine. So I don't have a cold startup setup. I run them stock. But if you have a bike that's an outlier, that's not playing by the rules, just start taking some fuel out of the cold startup.
And so what is this? So that's the thing is, I mean, I hear guys that, you know, you've seen 20 different startup procedures for these, the KTM fuel injected, you know, 2-strokes and stuff like this. I pretty much start my bike up, let it idle for 10 to 15 seconds, rev it a couple times. By then I'm usually ready to go, and I take off and I idle away. And you know, then I'm careful about not getting on it super hard for a little while. Let everything kind of warm up nicely. I don't have a special, you know, you hear, oh, you got to start up and let it sit there and idle for 5 minutes and da da da. I'm like, I don't know if I've.
Well, you got to do your monkey dance and jump up and down on one leg 3 times.
Okay.
So
maybe if I want to foul spark plugs, I'll try that.
Yeah, right. It comes from the TPI bikes were and still are very cold-blooded. And they also came with a tune that was overly rich. And if you had a bike that maybe wasn't quite set up right, they would foul plugs if you touched, you know, if you didn't let it do this, or if you ended up doing that and that sort of a thing. With the TSP tune, we just start them like you. We let them idle. I wait till the radiators are hot. I like a fast idle. A fast idle on cold startup, it warms the motor up faster. It also has more, you know, RPMs to push unburned fuel, because when you don't have a hot motor, you're not burning all the fuel and oil. So the higher RPM pushes it out of the system. And then the main thing is be easy on the motor till you get up to normal operating temperature. You know,
yes.
if you got a cold motor and you hold it wide open, you're gonna scuff, you're gonna cold seize. And if you just wait till the motor, normal operating temp on these motors are 170 to 190. If you're in that range, you can't hurt it, go for it. But just be easy on the motor till you get it up to that point. There's really no cold startup procedure with us because they're tuned properly. And it's just one of those things that I read a ton of stuff on the internet, just like you, and I'm like, what are these people talking about?
Yeah, well, I try not to. Trust me, I just have to for my job. What do you think is causing the I'll tell you what the internet is. It happens to one person, and 16 people regurgitate that thing, and now everybody thinks that it's happening to everybody, when it's like 1 to 3% of owners that are experiencing these problems. I have my theories on, especially the guys that are fouling a lot of plugs. I've ridden with these. I used to run an off-road riding school. I've ridden with these guys. They never make the power valve open. They're always riding it, and especially, like I said, on the newer ones that may be fueled a little bit richer, they're always running it in the rich zone. They're never getting it up to where it's lean and where it, quote, in theory, cleans itself out. So and I've pulled apart a couple of people's bikes, and I'm like, you know, you open it up and raw gas splits out of the bottom of the cases, or, you know, you take the cylinder off, you turn it upside down, and there's literally raw gas down in there. That's how lightly that bike's been used. And it's like, oh yeah, I can understand that. My jet ski does that.
Yeah. Well, on these fuel injected bikes, if they're properly tuned, you should be able to ride them around all day on the pilot, and they shouldn't foul plugs. They shouldn't spooge. They should run that clean. Now, on the new TBI bikes, like we got a 23XC, and I fouled the plug on it during cold startup. It was stock tune. I always ride them stock first before we tune them up. And it was just grossly too rich down low. And the TPS voltage wasn't set correctly. And so once we set the TPS voltage correctly, and then we put a TSP tune in it, she never fouled the plug again. So That is kind of a common issue on the newer TBIs. Some do it more than others, and it's my belief that it's just, the TPS voltage probably isn't set up right. And/or what's interesting about these bikes is when we wear a motor, the rings wear, we get blow by. On a carbureted bike, we never knew we had blow by. We just would run them and run them and run them. Well, these bikes have crankcase pressure sensors. That blow by affects the crankcase pressure sensor and causes the ECU to overfuel, most notably down low in the RPM range.
So you're talking about blow by past the revalve, backwards
Correct.
through the revalve. Okay.
Correct. And it affects the crankcase pressure sensor. So when somebody calls me and say, hey, I'm fouling plugs, first thing I ask them is how many hours are on the motor, what's your compression, and have you ever replaced your crankcase pressure sensor? We've gotten to the point now where we've just seen enough of them. 80 to 100 hours, we're putting new top ends in them, and every new top end gets a new crankcase pressure sensor, and all of those issues have kind of gone away.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, so the fouling root cause is a lot of times throttle position sensor.
It could be improper setup, throttle position setup.
Right. And then if the crankcase pressure sensor starts going, so over time, if this becomes a problem over time, because I always said, hey, that was my go-to, check the crankcase pressure sensor, because I've seen the hose on the older ones, gum up,
yep.
and kind of fill up, and then the pressure sensor was fine. It was just the hose was a little plugged, different things like that. I've noticed that guys with completely, that really smash shut pipes affects the bike. In generally, it's worse than a carbureted bike when the pipes get smashed. But sometimes I talk to somebody and they're like, "Oh, it does this and that." I'm like, "Is your pipe smashed?" They go, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, that's it's just something easy to fix."
Yeah. So there's definitely some little inherent issues with these newer bikes, but if you're educated and know about them and keep up on the maintenance, like ours, they're super reliable. They're great bikes and they run awesome.
How many hours? What's max hours on a top end?
I like 100 hours. I mean, you can go longer. People think there's a badge of honor going 200 hours on a
300.
top end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how that bike's running. It ain't the way that I would want it running. So
no,
I
mean, you can do it, but there's a certain point where it's going to keep running, but it's going to wear other stuff out. Downstream, you're net, you're costing yourself more by not doing that. So at 100 hours, you're going for a piston. Then another 100 hours, throw another piston in it.
Yeah,
or
and our top
is that the
end
time for a cylinder?
No, we'll usually run an A piston to 100 hours. We'll run a B piston to 200 hours. We'll run a C piston to 300 hours. And at 300 hours, you should probably have your cylinder mic'd. If you're really good, keep dirt out of it, keep water out of it. It could go another 100 hours. But what we're seeing on these new bikes, it's a trend I'm seeing, is they're losing crankcase seals. They're sucking tranny fluid. And on the 21s and newer, 22s and newer, they no longer use a center case gasket. They're gluing them together, and we're seeing those starting to come apart. So at that point, if I'm going to split cases, I'm going to rebuild the crank and put some new bearings in it also.
Right. Yeah. If you're that deep into it, might as well. Well, they should be using Yamaha bond to put those things back together, because the Yamahas never had center case gaskets, and they go forever. Anyways, this show is brought to you by Yamaha. Thank you, Steve Boardman from TSP. So I'm trying to think if there's other. We get a lot of questions. So somebody was asking, do you do Tenere 700 tunes?
We do not. Only 2 strokes, and then on the 4 strokes, right now we're doing 350s and 500s. We're working on the 250s and 450s. We do want to get into adventure bikes and some of the bigger bikes, but it's lower on the totem pole.
Right. I'm sure they're keeping you busy with stuff like this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the 2-stroke side. So when you start having, in the rare instances you have problems with bikes, I always say, hey, what was the last thing you changed or messed with or checked with? That's usually the problem. But you just mentioned like some crank seals on certain. Is it just is it, there's just like anything, there's just certain generations of bikes that have little issues here and there?
It's hard to say. I mean, I have seen a slew of, it seems like the 2021s, or a lot of them are coming in, sucking tranny fluid. Bikes aren't running right. We kind of go through our normal checks. I always tell people you should be putting 800 mils of tranny fluid in per the book. Go ride it for 5 or 6 hours, drain your tranny fluid, see how much comes out. If you get
Right.
a 750 or less, you got a problem and you got to fix it. The TPIs kind of had their issues with the crankcase pressure sensors. The TBIs tend to throw more codes, and they're a lot around the throttle positioning sensor. So it's a lot of little issues with electronics. But for the most part, I mean, we got 300 hours on a 24 300 XCW, and it's been absolutely flawless, and I think that's, in general, they've been very reliable, and I wouldn't say there's any one bike to stay away from or one bike that's any better than the other. The 22 TPIs have the most issues. There you go. There's the answer to your question. And it is around the crankcase pressure sensor. They changed the tray a little bit, even though the part number is the same. But if you look at the sensor tray, it's thinner and more flimsy, and they're asking an O-ring on the sensor to seal into a molded, flimsy piece of plastic, and it doesn't do a very good job of that. And then when people go to change them, they bend the tray down to get their screwdriver in there, and that distorts the tray. So we sell a brass fitting. Tokyo Off-Road sells a brass fitting, kind of modify the tray so the O-ring can seal in a machine brass fitting, and that tends to fix that problem. But the 22s, when somebody calls me and says, I got a brake running problem, I put a new top end in it, I put a new crankcase pressure sensor, I've done all this stuff, and I'll ask them, is it a 22? They're like, yeah, how'd you know? The 22s definitely have a lot of issues around the crankcase pressure.
That's the end of the the COVID parts.
That's
so
right.
There's always something. Like every brand has this stuff. Do you find differences between the red ones, the white ones, and the orange ones?
Not so much. The tunes are the same. The motors are the same. The gases have a slightly lighter clutch basket and a slightly lighter flywheel. And so they have a slightly different power delivery that some people like and some people don't. But those are the only differences. Other than that, they're the same. And of course, they have other components. Suspension's different. Brakes are different. But in terms of the motor, the only difference is the gas, slightly lighter clutch basket and flywheel.
Yeah, I know. Back when they very first introduced the gas EC300, I noticed something different. And that was back when it was the mechanical power valve, and there was a different spring in there. And they said no, it's the exact same motor, and it was a slightly different spring and ramp setup on the power valve, as well as potentially a different tune. But at that time, with the media bikes, they weren't telling us, they couldn't tell, and there were so many updates coming in the early days of the TPI. There was updates all the time, so it was just an updated ECU. But they said no, it's the same as the other one. But at that time, they wouldn't even say that KTM and Gas were the same company.
Right.
So read it how you want. How the message is this thing. So Steve, how do people check in, see where you guys are at? What do they need to know?
Yeah, you can check out our website. It's the company is South Bay Moto Performance, but the website is SB for South Bay, SB Moto Performance, or just give me a call. I pick up the phone pretty much anytime I'm awake. Our Google says any normal human hours, but we talk to people all day long, and we try to steer them in the right direction. And even after the sale, when people are wanting to learn about tuning or how to use different features on the ERM, we're always happy to help people out.
Yeah, cool. Well, it sounds like I know that the two-stroke performance stuff, like from the beginning, I looked at it and like these guys are going down the right path. You see a lot of people doing fish oil and smoke and stuff like that, but they seem like they're going down the right path, and it's good that you've got a good importer here. So thanks for joining us on the show. I think we don't have a whole whole lot of questions right now. Somebody says he got a new top end on an 18 X300XC. I ride woods, and the mechanic rides motocross. It's much different bike since the build, running one gasket, rejet, and adjusted the power valve. Okay, sounds good. I thought there was gonna. He says it's a little scary now. I was waiting for the question in that one. So
Yeah, I'm guessing that a new top end and power, like you mentioned, power valve makes a huge difference with the power delivery. You could rotate that thing a half a turn or a full turn, and it'll feel like a totally different motor.
Yeah, and people are always asking me like, "Oh, which way should I turn it?" Try it. Try
Right.
it one way.
Both ways.
Try it. Set up your little quarter mile, half mile lap. It doesn't take long. Just go out and try it. Even if you're just tuning it around the neighborhood. Just give it a shot and see feel what it does, because it's people go, which way do you turn it to make it more aggressive? I'm like, where do you want it more aggressive? It's a question begs another question, like where in the throttle position, because it changes. It kind of changes where the bike wakes up and how it wakes up, and it's not just one size fits all. Just like suspension, it's super crazy. So
Cool.
thanks for your time this evening, and when I get that bike, I'm sure I'll have to call you.
Give me a call anytime. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great evening.
Cool. Okay, everybody, that was Steve Boardman from Two Stroke Performance coming on. Trevor says he really likes his bike, and I wanted to get to the bottom of who tuned Trevor's bike to make it good, because Trevor doesn't tune his own stuff. So anyways, thank you to our sponsors. Of course, Yamaha. They announced the 2026 lineup of advanced industry-leading YZ off-road competition motorcycles, and even TTR off-road trail motorcycles, highlighted by the extensive updates of the flagship YZ 450F motocross model. I'm really looking at a new YZ 125, because that's about all I can handle on a motocross track anymore. But of course, there's Bulletproof Designs. There is Fasst Company. We have Scott Goggles helping us out here on the show. DDC. Hey, I got these Rich Lafferty Racing. So if you're from back east, you're obviously familiar with the Lafferty family. These are RLR 336 gloves. I've been meaning to wear them, but I have a problem. It's 105 freaking degrees out here. I was riding last week when it was 101, and I didn't have a chance to put the gloves on. Jerry left them here in the studio, and I was going to wear them, and then I'm just not dressing in the studio, although I'm sure some people would like that if I did that. Ron Wilder says, great guest. Thank you, Ron. And Victor says, sucking tranny fluids. That sounds interesting. Well, Victor, you do what you do. You do the most important thing for you. I was hoping to get Taco Mike on here to help me out with Rooster Endo, but I'm pretty sure that that's not going to happen because I haven't got the information back. We want to know if Brent can call in to talk about the Gas 300 and Gas 450 Enduro bike that he likes better than the motocross off-road race model. Sure, Brent can call in. He has my phone number. I'll just put yes. Yes, sure. Because Trevor is dodging his responsibility on my awesome podcast. What else is going on in the motorcycle world? I wouldn't know because I don't look at social media. So I can't tell you. Ben, what did I do? I'd say I got my pipe testing all done. I'm super stoked on my maps for my WR250. Now I want to get a big bore kit. I'm going to make my bike better than Cody Webb's. I'm planning on going riding someplace where it's cooler. And I think right now we're going to dive into the section that we like to call, if I can find it, I got to get it set up here. Oh, Crispy says, when might Yamaha get into two-stroke tuning? Huh, Chris. Well, that you don't have to tune them because they're so awesome the way they come stock. They're perfect. The four-strokes can use a little tuning because that's why they give you that. But the two-strokes are already perfect. You don't need to change any carburetor jets. You just start, go, and none of that stuff. The fuel injected, that's a big question. That's a really big question. I think they're sitting pretty in the market space that they're in. where there are a lot of people that are afraid of all the tuning we just talked about, which I'm not afraid. But if you are, looking for a Yamaha, actually, you know what it is? I know what it is. I know why nobody's watching the show right now. We only have 33 million people watching it. It's because it's Prime Day and everybody's shopping on Amazon. If you are shopping on Amazon, please click through the link on Dirt Bike Test and support this show. And if you have a registration problem with one of your vehicles, or you would like to make one of your dirt bikes a little more street legal, there's a company called Dirt Legal that'll get you hooked up. It's not just a Montana registration. They can help you with other registration issues as well. Just click on the link on Dirt Bike Test. It says support us, and then you click there. There's a little drop down. Click on that link, and you will help us out by us helping you out. That's what I always say. And my cat is tearing the crap out of my studio right now because she's pissed that I can just sit here and talk to myself forever. Okay, that's why we're moving on to this segment that we like to call, brought to you by Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. It's called Rooster Endo, everybody. Get ready. Hold on to the edge of your seats. Hopefully the people that sent their bikes in are sitting there. We're going to find out. I'm going to switch my screen to the Okay, how's the audio now? Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Flying Brian. Yeah, thank you guys. So I just said a whole lot of stuff. So we're just gonna have to eliminate the last. Okay, this is why I need to have more help here because I can't do all this stuff at once. I can ride and talk and do all kinds of stuff. But now I know there's no sound. Now we're back. Now we're fixed. I think someone would have told me earlier, but I didn't. The problem is I was looking at that bike talking about it. So I'll edit this out. Okay, so here I'm gonna go like this. Like that. And then I'll identify that, and I'll go back and I'll start all over again. So I'll edit it out on the real program that you guys have. So here we go. Rooster Endo. This is a 2007 Yamaha TTR 230. This is the Turn Track Warrior. According to its owner, has no name except for G Gun or something like that. It's a 2007 TTR 230R. 230. TTR 230. Several modifications, including, but not limited to, friction-reducing knobs on the tires with a speed-enhancing low-profile center knob on the rear. What he is telling you is that tire is worn out, just so you know. Custom-drilled jets for improved jetting. And in the last little thing that you couldn't hear because it was super top secret, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pour myself some of my 3Rs here, by the way, because this is the important part of the show where I need to make sure that I don't even have glass right here. I cleaned up the studio. Actually, I didn't clean up the studio. My wife cleaned up the studio. She said it looked like a disaster there. So this is adios to the three R's. That's it. That's what we do on this show. Yep, we like to make them go away. So adios to the 3 R's. Again, check this out. I don't know where our buddy is that usually likes to compliment me on my tequila choices, but you can't get that one in the United States. So, bottom of the bottle. I know this is good, and the best thing about it, this was $60. This particular tequila, and yeah, I got to get more of this stuff. So if you're in Mexico, you want to get Jimmy a gift, 3 R's tequila. Okay, back to Rooster Endo. So he custom drilled jets for improved jetting. The reason I know about this, and it's probably good the mic was muted because I went on a tirade about like Yamaha and lean jetting on TTRs. Yeah, you can drill out the pilot jets a lot on these bikes, and they run way better, especially when the previous owner exhaust baffle removal. That's stupid, but then it's kind of prevalent in this thing. I'm judging by the graphics kit. Is the Grim Reaper on the front of that handle on that? I can't tell, but I liked it. That's the wrong. I just messed up something else that's going to come to haunt me later, but we'll see. Let me see if I get this one here because I want to see. I knew it. How did I know that there was going to be? I couldn't see that. And there's a Grim Reaper on the front of that bike. And on the side panels, this is the bike of death. That's a good call. How did I know that there was going to be the Grim Reaper on that particular bike? It's just this. I wish I had the sound effect for the more you know, which we used to have queued up, and I used to have a producer that knew how to make it play it, but there's where we're at. What else is on this bike? Renthal handlebars with pro taper grips, which obviously means that he probably took them off another bike to mount Fasst Company flex handlebars on his primary bike, and he put his Renthals on this pile of Chariot. Fasst Company flex handlebars. If you know, you know, and if you don't, just keep asking yourself, why don't I have them on my bike? The front forks feature variable level fork oil capacity due to worn bushings and leaky seals. And I also, on the silent version of this thing, I said I had that problem and I had to go to eBay to get forks for my TTR 125 because I wore out mine as well. Possibly for sale, but no lowballers. He says, I know what I got. So there we go. J-Jet, whatever your name is. I can't figure out who you are, but I'm going to rely on the chat to tell me, get in on the chat. I get paid by how many messages we get in the chat. And Victor told me the sound is out. Well, you guys are about 10 minutes behind on this show. That's what happens when your YouTube buffers and all the other stuff. It looks like the sound is out on my side. Sounds good on my side, and everybody else told me it's good here. So the other Off-Road Hall of Fame. This is the Off-Road Hall of Fame that you can go to. They just announced that they're having their party. They just announced their inductees. It's more of a four-wheeled Off-Road Hall of Fame, but there's some two-wheeled people that got in there. My good buddy Johnny Campbell's in there, in case you wanted to know. So there we go. Okay, that's the TTR 230. Next up, let me get my settings set here. Next up is, I believe, hold on, I got to see which one comes up when I turn this off. Okay, Jeremy Franklin. And Jeremy says, lucky the guy has a name. Hey, Jimmy, check out the jugs on this girl. And by jugs, you mean the tank. Okay. Think my 21 Tenere Roost. I've listed all the mods below, but the standout is the Rally tank. It holds up to 12 gallons. Usually carries 6. Keeps the fuel low by the engine for better balance. No sloshing and easy access. Roost or Endo? Well, that's for us to decide. And us meaning me, my 3 R's tequila, and the chat room. And Victor says, every time I change screen, it mutes. So like right now it mutes because that's not what's showing on my side. I think you're a mute. Okay, I'm gonna list off what's on this 2021 Tenere. Safari 45-liter twin rally tank. So I run the Acerbis tank, and I'm looking at this thing going 12 gallons. That's rally-orific is what I say. B&B off-road skid plate and radiator guard. Rally Raid open cartridge forks. Sprung front and rear for correct sag. Okay, so let's see. You would definitely have to up the front fork springs for this tank when it was full, but you have to realize that you're not always going to be full, and so it's one of those compromise settings. This is a big problem with like rally bikes in general, is getting the suspension set up to handle the weight, and you can never bring it back, the fuel back far enough. That's why rally bikes have rear gas tanks, and that's why the riders can adjust them so that they can maintain the balance of the bike by fuel consumption. I hated weight in the back. I hated weight in so I ran my rear tanks dry before I go the first gallon or two off the top of the front tank, and then I go to rear till dry, and then run my front ones when I was lucky enough to have a rally bike that had that capability. Acerbis chain guide, good choice. Scott steering stabilizer. Actually, the Acerbis chain guide is one of the simplest, best, easiest mods for the Tenere because there's no chain guide stock. It's a little plastic thing, and this is actually a real chain guide. Scott steering stabilizer, good choice. How does it fit with the tank is my question. That's the big problem with my Acerbis tank and my Scott steering stabilizer. It's a tight fit. Highway dirt bike handguards. Wild at Heart 2-finger levers. I'm not familiar, but sounds good. Oxford heated grips. LSK off-road ABS dongle. This I need. Yamaha rally seat. I prefer the Seat Concepts one, but you do you. IMS rally pegs. Excellent. Camel ADV brake fix. That's a good thing. Camel ADV soft luggage rack. No experience, but looks tidy. Camel ADV camel toe side stand. Camel toe. It's kind of like nice jugs. Yeah, nice jugs and a camel toe on a single motorcycle. Scorpion race header, ECU mapping by Two Wheel Dynoworks, anti-gravity lithium-ion battery, and Moscow Moto soft bags. So somebody already says that this thing roosts. Let's see. Wow. Cody, Ron says it roosts. Lowbrow says it roosts. Unruly says it roosts. That's a lot of roost for one bike. And it's a Yamaha too, so I have to say it roosts no matter what because they sponsor the show. I would never say anything bad about a Yamaha. allegedly. I like this. I like this bike. If the exhaust isn't loud, then I really, really like the bike. If it's a loud exhaust, then I'm going to start bitching. But that tank is, I don't know when I would need 12 gallons of gas, but it never hurts. That could really let you do some adventuring or just stay away from civilization. And Jeremy Franklin said the Scott steering stabilizer fits great with the tank. No mod needed. Excellent. Yeah, it's a good looking. That's a good set of roosts you got there on the from the chats. Let's see what we got next. What's our next one? Did I have another one? I think I did, but we had some problems. So I'm gonna see if I can fix this problem. There's a problem right there. Okay. So this, let me get it up here because this came in late, like most of his stories. It came in, sized for Instagram or something. This is I'll just read it straight up. For sale, 2024 KX250 with 13.2 hours on it. Pro Circuit Tie 6 exhaust system, new Acherbys plastic, new TM Design Works, new chains, new tires, new wheels, rotor, new bars, grips, suspension set for 165 pounds, precision concept tuned ECU, arc levers, stock levers, IMS foot pegs, plus stock pegs. This is from one Trevor Hunter. For sale. He said Rooster Endo or for sale. This bike endos. It endos because it's A, not a Yamaha, and B, but if you want a good deal, tell them you heard about it on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, and I'm going to take a 25% cut of the purchase price. And so what you need to tell Trevor when you're negotiating with him, because he doesn't listen to this show, whatever you can chisel him down from his original price, I'll take out of my cut. Just tell him I said that on the show, and that way I'll make money. I can't believe he used probably all of our sponsors' products to sell this bike. He sounds like every other Instagrammer, journalist, influencer known to man. But if you want a pretty sweet KX250, that's it. It's probably set up to go pretty good at Grand Prix. If you're living in Southern California and you're riding Grand Prix or you want a good track bike, this would be a really good track bike for you. Especially if you're afraid of riding a Yamaha. But you do you. Okay, next I got to figure out this one too because it came in late. Oh yeah, I got to put these on the thing over here. I'm not sure how that showed up like that, but this is a bike. This is submitted to Rooster Endo from one Thomas Morton. Better known as Chip Morton. The good thing about Chip is he's a photographer. So you would think that he could do better than snap a picture of a bunch of parts on the garage floor. Because I mean it's very rare that I pick on people for their photos or anything like that. But as a professional photographer at one point in his life, in fact, if you want to see some of the most insane, just really good skate photography from back in the I want to say early 90s, I'm guessing. Check out Chip Morton's skate photography. Pretty good, Herm. So this is what he sent in. He said 2003 YZ144 Rescue. It has an Eric Gore cylinder and head, a Hinson clutch, an 18-inch wheel, braced chain guide mounts. He said, I removed the cylinder valves from the forks and installed hydraulic bottoming cones and revalved with the help of Smart Performance. And he put the sub-tanks on the forks too. It also features one-of-a-kind shop-made 45-degree turn throttle. Normally, I ride it with a big tank because big tanks rule. And also notice the before photo, which is the only one I've shown so far. So I am going to go ahead and show you, see, because I did bitch about Chip being a professional photographer. So here is a photo of the bike in the shop, all nice and pretty. It's shot horizontal so that we can see it. It's got proper lighting on it, and it looks sweet. I think on Dirt Bike Test, one of our former slaves down here did a similar year YZ125 rebuild, and we found out how cost ineffective that was to do. He got it in a similar condition, but this is a very nice Chariot. I'm going to go ahead and look at the let's see. Oh wait. It's now somebody's saying Endo. Wait. Gorgeous T7. Okay, the problem is we're this late in the show, and I'm deep into my my 3Rs here. Roost on the T7. I see you got it. Roost. Not really sure where these are coming from, but there's obviously a little bit of a delay and a lag. I'm not seeing what people think of Chip's YZ125 here. This thing's pretty sweet. To come from that to this, that's a lot of pride in that. And there was more photos. Let me see if I can go ahead and try to grab some of the photos. It's too hard to do while I'm doing this show, but I could. He sent me pictures of the internals of the forks and of his 45-degree throttle, which is all pretty good. Someone says a Cherry YZ125. Yeah, I have a 2005 YZ125 that's not for sale. Chip didn't put any places. This one's not for sale. It's amazing. It seems like everything else is for sale, except for the Tenere. So now we're going to the point where we have to decide what we like. So you guys just do you like this box of parts? Do you like this KX250 that's for sale? Hold on a second. Someone's calling in to defend himself. Trevor Hunter, welcome to the show.
I'm here.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to try to plug you into the soundboard so it doesn't sound so crappy. There we go. I believe you're live on Tech Talk, and what are you driving?
I'm driving again.
I made it. I think some people are going to be making offers on your KX250. I gave out your email address and your home phone number.
Perfect.
Okay, so
Whatever brings the money in.
Yeah, whatever brings the money in. Are you completely broke?
Maybe.
Because you're not
Waiting
winning.
on the.
You're not winning. Tech Talk Taco Tuesdays Rooster Endo, brought to you by Taco Moto. You will not be winning this tonight because someone submitted we had a pair of sweet Yamahas, and one of them is a TTR 230 with a Grim Reaper graphics kit.
That can't be beat.
Yes, it can. Because somebody else, and he didn't even give me his real name, and so that's a picture. I've put a picture up on the screen right now. While you're driving, you should be watching this on your phone. Hopefully, you're on the freeway.
Do you trust me driving and watching?
Well, I know I know where your heritage is, so no.
Exactly.
And obviously, your dad had too much to drink at the club meeting. That's why he can't drive.
He never made it that far.
Oh, he didn't make it that far. How much? Okay, so
No.
your club rakes it in at these Grand Prix, right?
Oh, millions and millions. Yeah.
So the bar tab at the club meeting is taken care of.
I don't really partake in that, so I wouldn't even know.
Oh, because I want to join your club. If you said yes, I would say I'll join the club. But
Our
now,
Christmas party has an open bar.
I want
no expense spared.
You have a club meeting every week?
Every month.
Every month. Okay, so what happens the other three weeks of the month that you can't come on this show?
There's a NGPC meeting. One Tuesday, and then
how much money does that series make? Do they make tons of money? Do they have open bar at their meetings?
Billions. Yeah, if you ask the desert people, they make billions.
Okay, got it. Yeah, billions. Right on. Well, your bike didn't win, and then the bike that I'm just right now saying wins, Rooster Endo, because everybody, like, when it popped up on the screen, everybody loved it. It's Jeremy Franklin's Tenere, with a 12 gallons gas, 12-gallon gas tanks in this thing.
Wow.
I know it looks like he
Sounds like-
shot it out on the trail, but I'm pretty sure that's just right outside of his front yard, which is better than shooting it. I mean, Trevor, like, why don't you just take a picture of your bike in the back of the truck next time? At night.
At night.
Like while you're driving through the rearview mirror, because that's the quality of photos we're getting on Rooster Endo these days.
That's yeah. That's, I'll take notes.
Okay, yeah, you gotta work on these kind of things. Let's see, and people have questions. Roost on the YZ125. I used to ride a bunch of those. Well, like Chris, I'm looking at your posts. You roosted on every one, so that doesn't count anymore. And Road Racer 3R says, speaking of upgrading suspension on the Tenere, I've recently sprung my Yamaha for my weight and have the sag dialed in perfectly. My problem is now it feels a little pushy in the soft stuff compared to the stock suspension. How can I dial this out? Ooh. So, Road Racer, so the question is, okay, so you had the sag dialed in perfectly. What was wrong with it before? Tell me what was wrong with it before, and I'll tell you how to fix it. Which you should just be riding the stock bike, because obviously it worked better than what you did.
Yep.
Let's see. I got to give it to the 125. It was a labor of love. No, I can do whatever I want on this show. I like bikes, and even the guy that owned the YZ125 said big gas tanks rule, so he voted for the Tenere. So take that. Hey, Trevor, we talked to Steve Boardman, who I forgot his name while I was talking to him, and he says you are a horrible test rider, and he just likes that you just put good stuff about his company on the website.
That sounds about right. Sounds pretty accurate.
Have you played around with the tuner?
I've just played with the different maps that they gave me, but I haven't spent much time playing with changing ignition, timing, or the fuel, or even the power valve.
The power valve. I want to play with the power valve, but you need to buy the upgraded app to get the a million boxes. I don't want just 4. I want a lot.
Yeah.
We'll play with that thing. I'll get that thing tuned.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
The Jimmy map.
I can mess it up, I'm sure. So let's see. Let's see the other photos of the 144. Oh, Lowbrow, why don't you come in here and be a producer? And then we can get those things uploaded when I get them 10 minutes before the show. And Road Racer says, okay, he weighs 220 pounds and had to upgrade the springs to stop it from bottoming out. So, and he said that it is a little pushy in the soft stuff. So what happened was now the bike is holding itself up. It's taller in the stroke. It's not kind of sacked out. So in what you're feeling is you're feeling a bike that now is a little bit less stable, because a lower bike gets longer. The suspension, when the suspension pushes down in the stroke, and especially when the swing arm goes up in the stroke, your wheelbase increases. And since now the suspension is down a little bit, it's holding itself up in the stroke, and you're feeling how the bike is actually supposed to handle, I guarantee you that it actually handles more properly when it's up like that, but maybe you're a little bit out of balance and the bike's responding to it a little bit more. So that's why, like, a lot of beginner bikes are really stretched out, and that's why they're really heavy, because that masks that kind of feeling. The Tenere is heavy, but now that it's up in the stroke, it's probably getting a little bit twitchy. Let's see, the 12-gallon tank makes the T7 a good bug-out bike. So, okay. Anyways, so what are we riding next, Trevor? What's our next venture?
We have a couple 450s, and this Gas 300 with the TSP kit.
Okay. And Brent wanted to tell me how much he liked riding trail bikes instead of race bikes.
Brent is now officially an old man and
Oh.
going to buy a bike with a headlight for a race bike.
Because
But
he was
not.
a
Go ahead.
holdout for a long time. He was like, I need a motocross bike.
He realizes that's what he needs, but he's having a hard time coming to terms with that.
Oh, I mean, he should just go back in history, because I know this kid he used to race against that he was riding a full on 250. I think he had a, what did he have back then? Was he a Cowie guy back then, or was he was on? Could have been on Hondas. What was old Stretch riding back in the day when I used to beat him on a KDX 200, which I distinctly remember had a headlight?
I think he had like CR 250s,
Yeah,
maybe, or CR 500s.
Yeah, he was 250 guy when I raced. Like when I raced against him and your dad and all those guys, because they were all in the 250 class, and I came up from the 125s, and then I wasn't strong enough to ride a 250, so I just rode a 200. But, I mean, I beat him on the 125 too, but that's a whole different story. And my 125s usually had headlight. They came with headlights too, because I used to ride when I rode KTM's, I rode the EXC 125, not the MXC. Just another point of fact, because that's they built factory 125 EXCs back in the day. So, right, how many hours are on that Gas 300, Trevor?
A little over 50 now.
Okay, because I think we can.
So I've got a good.
We can probably run it up to 100 before we have to do the top end. I got that info.
Okay, I got a top end for it. I just haven't put it in yet. But
From TSP or just from Gas?
From I think Wiseco.
Oh,
Clark.
A Wiseco setup. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta pull my 500 apart. I have a Wiseco piston and that. I got about 100 hours on my. I was gonna pull that apart and take a look at it and compare it to some of the other pistons. So it's on the schedule right after I ride it some more. It still runs good. Why tear it apart, right?
That sounds yeah.
Yeah. Well, you missed Rooster Endo, even though you didn't sell your bike. You might sell it. If somebody wants, just email me. Like I said, I'll take my cut and commission. I told everybody how that worked on the show. So you send me the money, and I'll give Trevor enough to get the bike, and then you can have the bike. We'll work that all out. Did all of the people that gave you all that new product that was listed on that bike, are they aware that you just are flipping the bike, or are you just turning into another Insta influencer?
I bought, I think, pretty much all of that.
Oh, you bought it?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot. Yeah, like tires. Yeah.
You bought the tires? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, okay, the front tire is an AT81. I just took off a test bike.
Okay.
So I hate that tire.
Right.
So I guess I didn't buy that front tire.
Okay.
I bought the rear tire.
Yeah. Okay.
For $50 at Chaparral.
Wow. What rear tire's on it?
Bridgestone.
Okay. You can get a Bridgestone for $50.
Yeah, in store only, they're blowing out Bridgestone. So I bought 4 or 5 tires, rear tires.
Oh, that's
Been
good.
running through them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't buy the tires that I run because they're too good. They can't blow them out. Anyways, well, Trevor, thanks for calling in and checking in. I'm kind of curious. How is your counselor?
My counselor?
Yeah, the one you're seeing after the big defeat at the Big Bear race.
They're helping me through it. It's gonna take a while, but they're helping me through it.
Yeah, is that video doing that? Is that video doing as good?
No,
it's tanking.
Well,
See,
I haven't looked at it in the week or 2 weeks.
Poor
so
performance. Poor performance there. At least you didn't have any copyrighted music on that. Jesus. Yeah, this show. So, okay.
It's gone downhill.
Well, so is the show, and thanks for closing it out. We won't call it a DNF. We'll just call it a poor finish. But yeah, thanks a lot from South Bay Cycles and Steve Boardman for coming on board and giving us a lot of good information on the top half of this show. I think I don't have a whole lot of the questions are kind of tapering off here. We've got to, you know what's funny is I put something in the chat thing. There's some way that we can make millions of dollars on the Googles, like by making people pay to chat.
Yep.
And I think it's gone downhill. I think I've wrecked our entire channel. So you might as well just start posting stuff. You might build trevorhunter.com. Where can people go to watch you get like good starts and then have everybody pass you?
My Trevor Hunter YouTube. I'm
Okay.
great at that.
Trevor
I'm great
Hunter
at that.
YouTube.
Yeah.
So you spend all your time posting up there instead of this cash cow over here at Dirt Bike Test.
I make like $75 a month on YouTube. Big money, so it's worth it.
Are you making 75 over there?
Average on a good month, like 150. On a really good month. If I'm racing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you get those people to watch our channel? Because we're making 300. This podcast, it has it really. I think this podcast doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't help it because I can barely get them monetized after we get fined for using sounds that are not allowed. Hold on, let me just do one more thing. Did you get to hear that?
I did not hear it.
Yeah. I think the audience did. Now we have a copyright claim filed against us. So
yeah, I'm trying to get the Dirt Bike Test viewers to go to my channel so then I can just keep all the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the right way to do it, right? That's a true moto journalist.
Yep, I'm gonna have a Freedom of Information Act sent over to you to check your forms and stuff like that to make sure that I'm getting my fair share. I did try to tell Steve that I taught you everything you knew, and then I realized I'm like, God, all Trevor does is screw shit up. So I taught him all that.
Yeah. Like Hoosterbergs and bikes with headlights and betas and all these weird bikes.
Yeah. What are you doing? Gas. You probably are. Have you ever ridden a Spanish gas?
I have never ridden one of those. Right. No.
Okay. I don't like to talk about myself all that much on this show, but no, I'm not even going to say it. Hey, thanks for calling in. I think there was something else I was going to bring up. Who's riding in the car with you?
Just me.
Oh, just you.
So, yep.
Yeah, it must be just my awesome voice echoing around there. I think I was actually envisioning that you had some friends.
No, I'm not that cool.
Because I want to know what those are like.
After Big Bear, they all disowned me. So I'll no longer have friends.
Good. Okay, well we'll just chat on the Instagrams or something like that, like all the other kids do. We have a question, Jimmy. Any recommendations on what quirks to check on a KTM 950 to set it up for a BDR? Well, Trevor, I'm sure that this is not your area of specialty, so I'm gonna let you go home so you don't get in an accident because we know about how you people drive.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Do you have any stock advice? I was gonna get Kendall Norman to come on and give me stock advice on the show, but
stock
stocks. Yeah, where you're stashing all your money away. All you kids evidently you're hot on the stock market and you're putting your money away.
See, I'm still holding on to my Dogecoin. That's doing really well for me.
Uh-huh.
I got some XRP. That's pretty good. I have a little Bitcoin.
Uh-huh. Oh, so you're all in on the cryptos.
I've got some Nvidia. Nvidia's really good.
Yeah. But what are you doing today? I heard it's all going to go crazy tomorrow when all these tariffs come up.
I'm going to hold.
You're gonna hold? That's not. We're never gonna get any views or likes on this podcast if you don't say something stupid crazy. Because I'm gonna put the banner is just gonna say Trevor's stock advice.
See, I don't know. I don't think I know how to really buy or sell much, so I'm just gonna hold on to it because that's all I know how to do.
You should sell everything, buy a KTM 950, and go riding with this guy on the BDR. That's what you should do. Because Crispy is probably looking for. Because if he's watching this show right now, he has no friends, kind of like us, and he's probably looking for a friend, But he's gonna start small by asking these KTM 950 questions. Because
I'll buy a Tenere. How about that?
Oh yeah, I'll sell you.
Yamaha.
No, I can't sell you. I like my Tenere. I was gonna hop on my Tenere. I have to go do some work up in the up in northern Nevada. I have to go look around at some roads and stuff. I was just going to ride my Tenere up there and do it, but it's so stinking hot down here. Coming and going is kind of a pain in the ass. But I might just throw it in my truck and drive it up to where, Tonopah, where it gets cool, and then go ride around out of there. Are you doing Vegas to Reno? Speaking of that?
I think so.
Yeah, how come you didn't do the Nevada 1000?
It's too busy with real work because dirt bike test doesn't pay enough.
You should talk to my boss about that. So,
Yeah, I was in the meeting with Cycle News. We're discussing
them
six
buying
figures
us?
or six figures or seven figures to hire me away.
Oh, well, just tell them they can buy the entirety of this thing. I'll give them office space and everything. Office space is way cheaper in Pahrump than it is where they're buying. There's a lot of activity happening out here right now. I'm not kidding. There's some stuff happening.
What happened to the DBT Cycle News collab?
I don't remember. Did you blow that apart?
I never did anything with it, so.
Oh, you got to talk.
couldn't have been
They probably trust you more than me. So why don't you fire that discussion up, and we'll get it going, and I'm ready to go all in and sell everything.
Perfect.
So cool. Glad to talk business with you, Trevor. Thanks for the stock tips, and we'll see you around the next turn.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, see you, buddy.
Bye.
Yeah, that was Trevor Hunter, everybody. He's the guy that does the majority of the real work at Dirt Bike Test. I just ride bikes and talk a lot. So with that, back to the 950. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for hanging on there. Quirks to check on a KTM 950. Well, first of all, how many miles does it have on it, and is it carbureted or fuel injected? Because if it's carbureted, I have no idea how those carburetors are hanging on that long unless the bike's been a kind of a regular daily rider. But at this point, like, fuel lines would be my biggest concern, because there's a fair amount of fuel lines on that particular bike. If it's not using oil, you're probably in pretty good shape. Those things, I put over 120,000 on one of those things. I put a lot of miles on those bikes without really doing much other than just regular air filter maintenance and oil changes. Even stuff like the wheel bearings, the suspension was really good. That was a well-built bike. So I think Teneres are allowed to carry the beer. Well, if you have a 12-gallon tank, I mean, what's a few extra gallons of things. So, so I know when you really loaded those things up, you want to keep, make sure all your subframe bolts are nice and tight. I had some TourTech racks on the one that I had, and I never had any problems, but I've seen people have problems by kind of overloading them and not paying attention to the subframe bolts, especially the lower ones down by your ankles. And other than that, just ride it. Fuel lines, that would be my thing. I would just carbs. Okay, just rebuilt, no leaks, 35,000 miles. Motor's brand new. Just send it. You should be good. Have fun on the BDRs. So with that, everybody, I need Mr. Tenere with the big jugs. Jeremy, send me an email. Reply back to the email you sent me, and I will get you hooked up with Taco Moto. You will win a $100 gift certificate. I'm sure you can find something that you don't have to put onto that bike. Maybe a fuel bag, just to carry around with you, so you could be cool. Have 13 gallons of gas or whatever it is. So thanks for joining in. By the way, the Tequila Night 3Rs was awesome. And Unruly says, guess my submission wasn't worthy enough for Rooster Endo. Unruly, you need to check RY Unruly. You might have missed the deadline. Let me look and see if I actually got I'm not seeing another submission. So maybe it didn't make it in. Maybe you misspelled my name or dirtbiketest.com. You probably sent it over to Ron Lawson at Dirt Bike Magazine, and for that, he will thank you. And with that, everybody, I am done with the show. Hopefully we come back next week if I learn how to push more buttons and make the sound work and all that stuff. And maybe I'll get these episodes uploaded onto the podcast platform. And Jeremy Franklin has a Beta 300, and that's where he's going to spend that money from Takamoto. That's takamoto.co. Go there if you need cool stuff for your dirt bike. Of course, you can go to South Bay Cycles if you need two-stroke help. You can go to Dirt Bike Test, click through our links, and support us. You can get a new Yamaha and then take a picture of it wearing your Takamoto shirt that are limited edition, never to be produced again. Take a picture of your Takamoto shirt next to your Yamaha with your Fasst Company flex handlebars and bulletproof design products. And with that, we will see you on the trail, everybody. Cheers. Now I got to shut. How do I shut this show off?